I've wanted this game for a while, and I recently got the opportunity to get it for a very, very cheap price. So I decided to share my thoughts on Spec Ops: The Line. The soundtrack is really good. So on the music side, I got a copyright claim on the stream I uploaded last Friday. However, the music in this game is really good. From the minute I started the game, even on the main menu, I really liked the music. It had like a rock and roll thing going on and a sad song of music happening when you walk through the sadder parts of the world, and that's very good, but every game does that. The real deal in this game is how real the music is and how it hits home in the closest sense. They're American songs, but they have a far away from home vibe to them, and it really fits in well with the story and how things are playing out. The soundtrack in this game is almost perfect in every way. The only thing I can say that's better than this one is the Doom soundtrack from earlier this year. Besides that, it's probably the best soundtrack in the game I've ever played, and I definitely was not expecting that when I started the game. To say the least, it was a pleasant surprise. Great soundtrack, truly great. The gunplay in this game is mediocre at best. This is my main negative with the game. As a developer, you have to realize that you're making a somewhat generic game. To stand out, you have to do things right, and the gunplay is just not good, plain and simple. All the guns feel the same. You have sidearms and you have primaries, and yes, there are different weapons. The grenade launchers are around the level, so you can pick those things up, but they don't feel different. The two guns I used the most were the AK and the M4, and there were times where I wasn't looking at my gun model, and I forgot which one I was shooting. For the most part, all the guns have the same thing, you know, but there's one thing that's special about them. You know, the M4 can be silenced and the AK can switch from burst to full auto, but that's the only thing different with these guns. I don't even think that they have different recoil patterns, to be completely honest. They're not different. They have the same base code, and it makes it for a really repetitive experience when you get down to it. The other thing about these guns is that they feel very weak. They feel like they don't do damage, and sometimes it's hard to convey over a keyboard and mouse, but you have to find a way to do it. The guns feel like you're shooting paper airplanes at terrorists, and that really does suck, because if the guns felt good, I could give them a pass, but they really just don't. They don't feel like hard-hitting weapons like they should. This would be okay if they're not hard-hitting weapons, but they are. I'm killing foes in like 2 or 3 hits. They do damage, but they don't feel like they do, and it's a weird disconnect, you know? This could have been fixed in even like just one patch, but the developers, they just didn't do it. They just didn't decide to do it, and that really is unfortunate, because I think the guns felt better. I think if they felt better, my reception of the game would have been a little bit better, a little bit warmer. So the cover system is almost perfect, and that was not surprised. It should be. It's a cover-based shooter, so they did it right. They spent time to develop the cover system the right way. My one gripe with it is that it's a little bit too sensitive. I feel like there's more of a mobile game that I'm just kind of running to cover and shooting guys, and it just it's almost like a magnet, you know? And I realize that it's a cover-based shooter, you know, but that doesn't mean I should always be looking over a broken concrete barrier for 85% of the game. Overall, this cover system is really good. I feel like I have a free range of motion even when I'm behind cover, and that's really nice. Some games don't do that, and it really limits how you experience the game. This game does. It lets you have free range of motion, it lets you move up and down your barrier, and it's actually really nice and freeing. Spec Ops lets you run around and switch cover on the fly, and it's just great. I really appreciate that they did that, and it makes me feel a lot more open to the game and to its environments. The game also has a mechanic in the cover system that I wish more games had. You can blind fire around or over cover, and this is so cool. They do it perfectly, and they built entire enemy classes around it. The shotgun soldier and the rusher that both come straight for you and try to attack you up close. And what do you know, the blind fire mechanic is great for these guys. You know, they take them out really quick, they take them out really easy without putting yourself in danger. It's more fleshed out than you would expect, so kudos to the devs for making sure everything has a reason to be in the game. It's awesome, and I really appreciate that they went that far into the cover system and mechanics like that. The setting is very interesting, and I can guarantee you that no other game you have played has the same setting as Spec Ops: The Line. A sandstorm ravaged Dubai. So basically you're set in Dubai after some of the biggest sandstorms in recorded history destroy the city. You're going from skyscraper to skyscraper and staying out of the sandstorms while fighting not only survivors turned terrorists, but your own US soldiers that have turned against you for unknown reasons. It's really cool because it adds a level of global verticality as you're using arbitrarily placed zip lines to get from ruined skyscraper to the next ruined skyscraper. Another thing about this setting is that you can see the aftermath of the sandstorms, abandoned buses, and crashed planes lie all around the world. Sometimes you fight through them, other times you fight around them. Furthermore, you can fight besides these, and let me tell you, using a crashed plane as cover is really cool. It's something that games don't really do. Yes, every game has a plane crash, but no games let you use the crashed plane as cover. Then lets you jump over that plane while shooting an M4 in the middle of a sandstorm. That said, when it's not throwing sand in your face, it really does feel like you got here right after the sandstorm, or at least at a calm part, because as I said before, sandstorms do happen from time to time, and yes, you do fight in these sandstorms, and yes, they do affect how you aim and how you move throughout the world. It's really cool, it's really deep, and it makes you feel like you got into this world at a time where it's still in chaos, and that feels awesome. I'm big on two things, graphics and performance. Now, the performance of this game is stellar. It's really good, but it's also had about 4 years to get it going smooth. The graphics, however, are good in some places and less than optimal in others. And you can tell, rooms and places that you won't be in for long are not graphically impressive, but what you have to get when you have to get into a room and you have multiple levels and you're going to be in there fighting for a while, you have a level of graphical fidelity that is actually really impressive for a 2012 game. And to be honest, I assumed they were 2013 graphics. And I know it's not a big deal, but the graphics looked better than what I expected. So they're pretty good for the time, and they still hold up today. On the side of level design, the devs put time into these levels. In all honesty, I can't tell the difference between the skyscrapers, but I can see that the insides are what counts. Every room is different. My favorite so far is the giant reception center where we fought in this circular room on 3 different levels at a time. Me and my team started at the top and we instantly had bad guys firing at us from not only our floor but the 2 below us as well. We instantly took cover, started fighting our way down the spiral stairs and down the corridors and finally onto the bottom level. I thought it was really cool, and I know it was really well designed. It was not only cool because it was challenging, but it was really interesting too how we moved through everything. It struck a nice balance, you know, but the best thing about this, however, was that it's not only unique because it was different, it was unique because it stood out the most from all the different levels in the game. Overall, Spec Ops: The Line is a really good game wrapped up in a really generic body, but that's the reason I picked it up. It was generic and I wanted to see what it had to offer. Aside from a few interesting mechanics like shooting out the glass in a big room or blind firing, there isn't anything super special, it's just well made. And that's completely fine. All I wanted out of this was honestly a reskinned version of Battlefield or Call of Duty, and what I ended up with was a baseline shooter, and that's what I wanted. I wanted something to measure other shooters off of, and Spec Ops: The Line did a really good job of that. All it is it's just made right, and that's really all you need. You don't need to be fancy, you just need to be brilliant at the basics, and that's what Spec Ops: The Line is. With that, my name is Z-Star. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the thumbs up. If you did not, click the thumbs down button and tell me why you rated it like you did in the comments below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.